Her heart fluttered at the rawness. The truth, this was a different fight, one for intimacy, for recognition against the backdrop of chaos. "Are you willing to risk it all for us?" she breathed, stepping closer, their foreheads nearly touching, the uncharted territories of their hearts on the brink of collision. "I'll risk everything," he swore, voice trembling with fervor. Together they stood, heartbeats echoing louder than their unresolved conflicts. The air thickened with unarticulated promises, their worlds colliding, not in a violent clash, but in a tender convergence that defied the darkness outside. Scene 32, stormy night. The wind howled like a chorus of angry spirits outside the dimly lit mansion, rattling windows and slamming doors that had long stood guard over whispered secrets. The storm, fierce and relentless, held the island in its treacherous embrace, grounding everyone in the same uneasy space. Akil Amari leaned against the ornate wooden mantel, the flickering firelight casting dancing shadows across his chiseled features. Fortified with resolve, he could feel the tension building, not just in the atmosphere, but among the thick air surrounding him, laced with brewing arguments and unspoken emotions. "Why did you keep this from me, Akil?" Bria Finch snapped, her voice rising above the din of the tempest outside. She stood with arms crossed, a tempest of her own, bravely confronting the man who had become both her sanctuary and her storm. "You orchestrated my career. You made all the connections. And now you're telling me you didn't think I should know?" "Bria, it's complicated." Akil shot back, his voice a mixture of frustration and urgency. He pushed away from the mantel and took a step closer, his presence overwhelming yet magnetic. "You don't understand the stakes involved. It's not just about us." "Oh, so now it's about the world?" Her tone dripped with sarcasm, accompanied by a bitter laugh that felt like glass shattering in the otherwise warm room. "I'm sorry, but I didn't sign up for the shadows. I can't trust you, and it's killing me." Across the room, in a corner lit only by the slant of moonlight illuminated through the rain-specked window, Zuri watched the confrontation unfold. Her own heart thudded between lurches of empathy for Bria and worry for Akil, both of whom were caught in a game far more dangerous than any of them could have anticipated. "I thought I was fighting for something real," Bria continued, her voice slicing through the air. She took a shaky breath, fingers clenching at her sides. "But now all I feel is deception lurking behind every smile." Akil's spine straightened, a flash of pain crossing his face before he masked it with determination. "Deception? This isn't about lying to you. This is about protecting you." In the background, Omari, one of Akil's closest friends, could only shake his head as he poured another drink for himself. "Man, do you ever just stop digging deeper? The more you talk, the worse it gets," he chimed in, laughter lacing his words, a brief momentary lift amid the chaos. "I mean, really, who told you silence was a good strategy?" Bria glared at Omari. "And you, what say you to that?" "I stay out of it," he defended with a grin, "but I love me some tea, so I'm here for the show." Without warning, the power flickered, plunging the room into near darkness as thunder echoed outside. Then another crack lightning illuminated the tension contorting their faces. Bria's eyes were fiery, glowing like embers beneath a smoldering ash of betrayal. "Is this what you wanted?" Bria demanded, getting closer to Akil, their shared breath hanging heavy with unresolved tension. "You don't trust me to carry my weight, to face whatever's coming?" Akil's gaze softened. "It's not about trust. It's about keeping you safe. I'm not the villain of your story, Bria." "Maybe you just don't want to be that guy." Bria's voice dropped to a whisper, though it was laced with heat. "You don't get to decide what's going to define me." A skirmish echoed from the other side of the house as chaos erupted. Guests erupted into a frenzy, a side that emerged when Wit, trying to play peacemaker, accidentally shoved Sybil into a decorative vase. The shattering porcelain stopped everyone briefly, a unified stare at the aftermath of their conflict underlined with comedy. This was a perfect metaphor for their current state. Sybil dusted herself off, straightening her dress with an exaggerated huff. "Not how I pictured my stormy night, let me tell you." This distraction drew a reluctant chuckle from Bria, easing the poignant weight just enough. Now it was Akil's turn to soften. "Bria, no matter what, I care about you." "Then be honest," she cut him off, her voice trembling. "Please, don't hide behind your wall. I see you and I want us." The moment stretched between them, saturated with vulnerability and longing. The storm outside thrashed against the walls, yet within the space between their charges, there was an undeniable pull. Be my ally, not my secret. Bria pressed her forehead against Akil's, vulnerability layered on the truth, as the tempest crooned softly outside. Let's fight together. Akil chuckled through the weight of their shared passion, mirroring her sentiment. Together, no secrets. Underneath the storm's cacophony, a silent promise sparked with fervor, intertwining their fates as intensely as the wind howled outside. Scene 33, Confrontation. Raindrops fell in heavy sheets against the window panes, the sound echoing through the dimly lit apartment that she and Akil shared. The storm outside mirrored the tempest brewing within Bria as she wiped down the kitchen counter, the scent of lemon cleaner filling her nostrils. Each swipe of the cloth felt like a futile attempt to wipe away the chaos of her thoughts. The past week had been a cacophony of emotions: betrayal, passion, and an unsettling fear of what lay ahead. Bria, you shouldn't be cleaning right now, Akil said, his voice resonating softly from the living room, laced with concern. He leaned against the doorframe, his arms crossed, the outline of his form emphasized by the flickering light of the storm. Why not? The world is falling apart, and I'm just trying to make some sense of it, she replied, her voice slightly sharper than intended. She paused, feeling the tension spiral around them, thick and electrifying. He stepped closer, the energy between them crackling like the storm. This is not about cleaning. You're avoiding the real issue. His eyes searched hers, deep and dark like the storm clouds outside. We can't pretend anymore, Bria. With a quick motion, she tossed the cloth aside, her heart pounding against her chest. What do you want me to say, Akil? That I'm okay with you keeping secrets? That I don't care who you really are? Secrets are meant to protect. I didn't want to hurt you. His voice softened, revealing the vulnerability buried beneath his formidable exterior. But you deserve the truth. Bria slid her gaze toward the window, staring out at the sheets of rain falling relentlessly. What if I'm not strong enough to hear it? What if your truth means I can never look at you the same way? Then let me tell you the truth, and we'll face it together, Akil insisted. He stepped even closer, the heat of him drawing her in, stirring feelings that she had tried so hard to suppress. And if you look at me differently, let it be for who I am now, not who I was. The storm outside intensified, the wind howling in a way that resonated with the tension between them. Bria turned to him, her eyes flickering with uncertain defiance. You're making it sound so easy. Nothing is easy, he said, exasperation weaving through his words. But I need you to understand that what happened, it was never about you. It was about me trying to survive in a world that's far darker than you could ever imagine. What do you mean? She pressed, ears pricked for the revelation. Akil took a deep breath, his resolve flickering like the dim lighting around them. I orchestrated the job that got your break, Bria. It's all connected. Bria felt the air leave her lungs as the reality of his admission crashed over her. It was a blinding light that illuminated the shadows of their relationship. You used me. Her voice trembled, wounded and incredulous. No, it was not manipulation, he fired back, urgency shaking his voice. I thought you deserved the world. I didn't plan for this to happen. Then what was your plan, Akil? To keep me in the dark while you danced in the light? Her words dripped with disdain as she crossed her arms over her chest. No, damn it. I wanted to protect you from all of this. He gestured wildly, the frustration boiling over. To keep you from getting caught up in a life you would hate. A breath caught in her throat. Is this even about protecting me? Or is it about you needing to control everything? Their eyes clashed, a volley of emotions ricocheting in the silent space. The storm raged on outside, but the tempest between them was charged with an undeniable force. Akil's frustration morphed into something raw and pleading, his voice barely a whisper. I care about you, Bria, more than I ever intended, and now I can't stand the thought of losing you. Just as despair threatened to engulf her, an unexpected warmth ignited between them. Bria took a step forward, her voice low and steady. Then let's stop hiding. You tell me everything. Now, please. The rain pressed harder against the glass, but inside, the world seemed to still, holding its breath. Akil's resolve hardened, mixed with an unyielding spark of desire. And then Then we figure out what we're going to do together, she answered, a flicker of hope igniting against the chaos. I'm in, he said, conviction flooding his voice as he took her hands in his. Beneath the weight of the storm outside, their connection intensified, igniting the very air around them with anticipation. With all the honesty and rawness between them, it was easy to forget the chaos of the world. As their lips met, soft and tentative, it felt like a promise, a vow of exploration and vulnerability, of facing the darkness together, come what may. Scene 34, Emerging Threats. The wind howled outside, a banshee's call echoing through the dimly lit warehouse where Bria Finch paced back and forth, every step resonating with the urgency that churned within her. Rain lashed against the corrugated metal walls, creating a staccato rhythm that mirrored the racing beat of her heart. Amidst the chaos of her thoughts, her mind flickered back to the danger that loomed larger than the storm outside, a new player in the intricate game of power that threatened to upend everything she held dear. Bria, Akil's voice cut through her reflections, a low rumble that provided a fleeting comfort. He stepped closer, the tension in his posture as palpable as the electrified air around them. We need to talk strategies if we want to handle this new threat. His gaze was intense, drawing her in, but the hint of worry behind his deep-set eyes held her back. Strategies? What strategies do we have when they're aiming for me? Bria shot back, her frustration escaping like steam from a vent. She thrust her hands into her pockets, fighting against the whirlwind of emotions colliding within her. She couldn't shake the feeling of being a pawn in their brutal game. Akil stepped closer, his presence wrapping around her like a cloak. Listen to me, he urged, his tone dropping to something softer, more intimate. Every move they make is designed to make you feel small. But you're not, you're fierce, formidable, and they know it. Bria felt her breath hitch, the admiration in his gaze igniting a warmth that battled against the shadows of fear creeping into her heart. That doesn't change the fact that I'm being targeted, she argued, desperate to maintain her grounding despite the intoxicating pull of his words. Every time I step out, I feel like a bullseye. Akil ran a hand through his dark curls, their bright sheen nearly glistening in the lack of proper light. We'll figure this out. You've built your world on your own terms. They'll soon learn not to underestimate what you can do. The earnestness in his voice lured her closer, but the underlying tension bound them both, reminding her of the unseen threats prowling in the periphery. A crash echoed from the other side of the warehouse, and without hesitation, Akil turned, his instincts honed like an iron sword. Stay back, he ordered, his demeanor shifting as he moved decisively towards the noise. Bria's heart raced anew, adrenaline thrumming through her veins. I'm not some damsel to protect, Akil. I can handle myself. He glanced back, his expression a mix of irritation and admiration. Right now, we don't know what's lurking out there. You need to trust me. As the two navigated the labyrinth of crates and machinery, the tension was thickened further by the crack of thunder, illuminating the shadows that danced across the ground. Bria edged closer to Akil, their bodies nearly brushing, a force drawing her, yet the urgency of their mission tugged them apart. Damn it, stay close to me, he murmured, as if sensing the electric charge sparked by their proximity. The swirling storm outside echoed the tumult in her heart. Desire and fear battled within her. But before she could respond, the warehouse door swung open, and figures emerged from the deluge outside, soaked and determined. Anushka's crew, Akil hissed, gripping Bria's wrist. We need cover. Bria nodded, her resolve hardening. They ducked behind a crate, eyes scanning the dark silhouettes intruders, armed and with a purpose that screamed danger. What's the strategy now, hero? Bria whispered, her breath mingling with adrenaline, the thrill shifting again towards the unknown. As the heavy footsteps approached, Akil's eyes blazed with unwarranted charm filtered through an edge of desperation. Hold tight. I promise you'll always have my back. Before she could respond, a shadowed figure lunged forward. Akil reacted, sending the intruder sprawling into the nearby crates with a crash. Bria, stay here, he shouted, as chaos erupted around them. Shouts filled with malice and the sharp snap of gunfire cleaved the air. Bria barely had a moment to process, adrenaline swamping her senses. I said I could handle myself. She shouted back, her heart racing with both fear and the thrill of the fight. But amidst the whirlwind of gunfire and chaos, one thought crystallized. She was in the game now, entwined with Akil, and she wouldn't let fear dictate her. Together, they would emerge from the storm and confront the enemies who threatened everything they had built. Scene 35, Hidden Weapons. The storm rumbled outside, thunder rolling across the night sky like a furious drum. Tiny droplets of rain pounded against the windows, creating a chaotic symphony that mirrored the turmoil within Bria. She leaned against the wall of the dimly lit study, heart racing. Akil was nearby, pacing a taut figure, radiating tension as he spoke, his voice a low murmur. "Do you think they really know about the cache?" he asked, glancing at her with fierce intensity, as though he could peer through the shadows that loomed between them. The flickering candlelight danced, throwing eerie shadows that seemed alive, echoing their hidden fears. Bria straightened, inhaling the musty smell of old leather and wood. "Who knows what they're capable of? All I know is we have to be prepared for anything," she replied, crossing her arms tightly against the chill that was creeping in, not just from the storm outside, but from the haunting unease she felt within. Prepared for what? Betrayal? A knife in the back? Akil shot back, his voice laced with an emotion she couldn't quite decipher. Hurt, perhaps. She stepped closer, the glimmer of urgency in her eyes. "I'm not talking about betrayal from you. We have enemies who would love to see us fall. If they are indeed onto us, we need to find those weapons. Now." As she spoke, Bria's gaze fell on a shadowy corner of the room, where a slightly ajar door revealed a staircase spiraling down into darkness, hidden beneath rich red velvet curtains. Something in her gut pulled, a mixture of dread and curiosity. "What if that's where they are?" she whispered, stepping toward the door. The atmosphere between them shifted as Akil followed, a beat of tension straining the air, electric and charged. "Bria, wait," Akil said, reaching out, but she pushed forward, driven by an instinct that she couldn't shake. The moment her foot touched the first step of the stairs, the air grew colder, and she could feel Akil's presence behind her, a storm of energy, a mix of protectiveness and fear. "This place, it holds too many secrets," he murmured, almost to himself, as they descended into the darkness. Bria's heart thudded in her chest, but a thrill ran through her as they entered a room filled with weapon-sleek firearms carefully arranged on shelves, hidden caches of power and danger. A shiver raced down her spine. These objects, cold and metallic, represented not just self-defense, but darker choices, the kinds of decisions that could tear them apart. "Who would have known?" she breathed, reaching for a sleek revolver, its weight surprisingly comforting in her palm. "This isn't just a pretty facade after all." Akil stepped into the room, the shadows pooling around him. "This was my father's business long before I ever came into the picture. It was never just about reputation." He paused, his voice low. "It was survival." Bria turned to face him, the revolver still cradled against her side. "You never told me much about your past, Akil, and all I've seen are the glimmers of what lies beneath. The darkness can't just be dealt with by strength alone. You think I wanted any of this? The stakes of this world? No." He broke off, stepping closer, the tension crackling like static between them. "But I do this for us, for you. Do you trust me?" she pressed, the intimacy of the question hanging thick in the air. "I want to," he said, searching her eyes. The weight of their unspoken truths swirled around them, drawing them closer even as the storm outside intensified, rain lashing like a frantic heartbeat against the windows. The moment hung there, charged and fragile. Bria stepped closer, heart racing, the revolver slipping from her grasp as she reached for him. His hand encircled her waist, pulling her into the warmth and strength that had begun to feel like home. When their lips met, it was like the first rush of a summer storm, all pent-up energy bursting forth in a downpour. Her mind swirled, the tension unraveling as their connection deepened, filling spaces they thought were void. The kiss tasted of sweet urgency, a promise echoed with an electric thrill that left her breathless. Just as reality pulled at the edges of their world, a muffled thud sounded above them, punctuating their moment with urgency, all too quickly reminding them of the very real dangers lurking in the shadows of their lives. "We need to get back," Bria whispered, breathless. Akil nodded, the fire in his eyes unwavering, determination set. Together, we will face whatever comes. No more secrets. As rain continued to lash against the estate, they stepped back into the unknown, hearts racing, knowing the battle was only just beginning. Scene 36, Unforeseen Alliances. Dark clouds loomed overhead as Bria Finch stood at the edge of the alleyway, rain pattering lightly against the worn cobblestones. She tightened her grip on the phone in her hand, willing her heart to calm down. Each beat echoed the uncertainty that had become her unwelcome companion. Akil had flown back into town unexpectedly, and with his return came complications she hadn't expected. What had begun as an exhilarating weekend of discovery now felt like a precarious tightrope walk above a yawning chasm filled with hidden dangers. Suddenly, a side door creaked open, breaking her reverie. Out stepped Jace, a familiar face from Akil's world, not quite a friend, more like a shadow that lingered where his boss didn't tread. He leaned against the lamppost, the dim light catching the contours of his expression, which was half masked by the misted rain. "Thought you were ghosting me," he said, a cocky smile tugging at the edges of his lips. "No time for banter, Jace," Bria snapped, her pulse quickening. "I need information, and your cooperation." She stepped closer, the distance evaporating, her authority in this world newly crystallized. Jace raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. "What's in it for me? You think I risk my neck for free?" "Let's be clear," she said, eyes narrowing. "This isn't charity. We both know the stakes. I'm not some damsel you can throw a pity act at. There are whispers of something big brewing that concerns both of us. I can help you maintain your standing with Akil. Protect you. The chaos isn't just going to concern you if you sit this out." Jace straightened, the faintest trace of intrigue flickering in his eyes. "You think you can protect me, huh?" He stepped away from the lamppost. Closer now, the intensity of his gaze sweeping over her. "You don't even realize how deep this game runs, do you?" "Explain it to me then," Bria urged, her demeanor taking on an impatient edge. "I'm standing here in collaboration because I need immediate clarity. There's no point in playing shadows when I'm wide out in the open. Focus, Jace." But Jace was already backtracking, his expression arching into something passionate. "Look, Bria, I don't like sharing my secrets, especially with someone who's untested." His words hung thick in the damp air, a challenge wrapped in danger. As they edged closer, the storm above began its symphonic crescendo. Wind howled, and thunder cracked like a whip. A shiver passed through Bria. This was not just about survival. This was warfare, political maneuvering amidst the mayhem. "And yet," Bria said, holding her position with the fierceness of a lioness, "you don't have to do this alone. Help me navigate through, and I'll strengthen your place with Akil. We'll outsmart the ones set to tear down everything he's built." Seconds dragged into minutes, suffused with a mix of promise and danger. Jace regarded her, tension crackling between them. With every shared breath, she could taste the rain mingling with adrenaline, the moment raw and electric. "I'll consider it," Jace replied, setting his jaw, a flicker of agreement in his dark eyes. "But know this, a partnership isn't a free ticket. I'll be watching you." Bria couldn't help but smirk, her disdain tinged with respect. "Just be ready for the return of fire. I'm not the one shooting blanks here." As she turned to walk away, Jace called out, a note of curiosity hanging in the air. "What's your endgame, Bria?" Without looking back, she threw over her shoulder, "To survive this storm and emerge stronger. In this world, happiness comes at a steep price. Are you with me or against me?" The rain began to pour harder, drowning their conversation in the roar of chaos, but Bria felt a strange sense of exhilaration taking root. Allies were a rare commodity in the underbelly of Akil's universe, and she was growing into what she would need to confront it. Scene 37. A dangerous lull. The rain beat softly against the window, its rhythmic patter creating a soothing backdrop to the dimly lit room. Akil stood by the kitchen counter, absent-mindedly slicing a ripe avocado, its flesh a bright green against the stark white plate. The aroma of rosemary-scented olive oil wafted through the air, teasing the edges of Bria's senses as she moved about the small kitchen with purpose, gathering ingredients for a simple yet intimate dinner. "Do we even need a salad?" Bria asked, her voice light yet laced with a hint of an underlying tension. She glanced up, catching Akil's intense gaze as he paused mid-slice. "Not just any salad," he replied, his tone playful. It's a Bria special and it requires all the greens. He grinned, though his eyes seemed to hold a depth that reached far beyond mere humor. Besides, we might need the vitamins for what's about to go down later. Bria chuckled at his cheekiness, but felt the flutter in her stomach. She busied herself with the tomatoes, their skin gleaming like polished gems, but each slice revealed the nervous energy flitting between them like a hummingbird searching for nectar. She blinked away her thoughts, complicated matters swirled in her mind, but for now she wanted to simply enjoy this moment, this respite from the chaos. The air was thick with unspoken words as they worked in tandem, the shared rhythm of their movements creating an intimacy that felt fueled by more than just culinary pursuits. Akil moved behind her, a whisper of warmth closing the distance, and Bria's breath hitched. There was something electric about the way he stood so close, his body just a breath away. "Bria," he murmured, as if testing the sound of her name on his lips. The syllables felt like a promise hanging in the air. "Yeah?" She answered lightly, though her heart raced, feeling acutely aware of his presence. "Do you ever wonder what it would be like if we never had to worry about anyone trying to take everything from us?" His voice was low, filled with a weight that made her pulse quicken even more. She paused, the knife trembling in her hand momentarily. "What do you mean?" Bria turned to face him fully, the salad forgotten on the counter. Akil leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, his expression a mixture of vulnerability and strength. "Just imagine, we could be living some mundane life, you know? Like trying a new recipe just for the fun of it, rather than planning our escape or strategizing our futures." A silence fell between them, thick yet tender, heavy with both longing and fear. Bria's heart raced with the weight of his words. The thought danced tantalizingly before her. Could they aspire to such normalcy? Could her heart ache the illusion of safety that had been so elusive? "I would love that," she whispered, a confession that sparked a warmth in the space. Without breaking her gaze, Akil took a step closer until the warmth radiating from his body enveloped her. The distance between them melted away, replaced by a burgeoning tension. "Yeah?" he breathed, lowering his forehead to rest against hers. "Just us." In that moment, Bria felt all the walls she had built start to crumble. Their secret life, filled with dodges and dangers, faded into the background, and all that remained was the heat of his breath and the flutter of possibility that ignited in her chest. Time suspended around them, dishes piled in the sink felt worlds away. "Maybe," she murmured, "maybe we can dream like that tonight." The sincerity in her voice hung heavy, blooming like the daring fragrance of the herbs in the kitchen. Suddenly, Akil cupped her face gently, his touch igniting every nerve as he tilted his head, searching her eyes in silence for permission. Bria felt her body respond instinctively, leaning into his warmth, the soft glow of the kitchen light casting a halo effect around them, making everything outside feel unimportant. And then, in a moment that felt suspended in time, he kissed her, a thorough, deep connection that silenced every anxious thought. The taste of olive oil mingled with the sweetness of their shared air, igniting a fire that burned gently yet urgently between them. As they pulled back slightly, hearts racing, Bria whispered, "I think we deserve this. Just a lull, a moment to breathe." Akil nodded, fingers brushing against her arms, the sensation electric and grounding all at once. "We'll hold on to this moment, however fleeting it may be." And for that heartbeat of time, they surrendered to the lull, to the possibility of something more, a desire to be just themselves, unhindered by the world outside. Scene 38, the final showdown. Thunder rumbled like a distant drum, setting the stage for chaos as shadows danced across the abandoned warehouse by the docks. Cracked concrete and rusted beams loomed like giants, their iron frames twisted and cold, reflecting the tension knotting in Akil Amari's gut. The air was thick with anticipation and the scent of impending rain, stinging with the salty tang of the nearby sea, evoking memories of joy now tainted with dread. He scanned the dimly lit space, his eyes narrowing on Bria Finch, who stood defiantly beside him, her form poised and ready, but her gaze flickering uncertainly. "Are you sure about this?" she asked, voice low but sharp, matching the steel of her resolve. "Is there any other option?" Akil replied, a smile creeping onto his face, though it didn't touch his eyes. "They want to play games. Let's give them a show." They stood like a fortress, surrounded by an eclectic team. Each member of their crew bore a unique fire, challenging fate. Malik, with his hand often resting on the holster of his sidearm, paced nearby, checking the shadows for threats. "Last checks?" he prompted, glancing at Bria. "Everything's set. We have the upper hand. Let's keep it," she affirmed, straightening her shoulders. The warehouse door creaked, echoing like the beginning of a dance. A trio of men from the rival syndicate strode in. Their swagger clashed with the tension below the surface. The leader, a mountainous figure with a scar across his cheek, surveyed the room, eyes sparkling with malice. "Look what the cat dragged in," he sneered. "I expected a bit more. Elegance." Bria stepped forward, her chin lifted, demanding his attention. "Did you think we'd cower? Cower? I thought you'd come to negotiate." He smirked, finger tapping the table rhythmically. "But that's not what I see." The tension hung like the heavy clouds outside, waiting for release. Akil took a step forward, cutting through the air with his voice. "You think we'd hand over our territory? This is ours." Laughter erupted from the rival gang, a harsh sound that felt like nails on glass. "Yours? You don't even know who you're playing with." "True, but I know you're about to find out," Akil shot back, heart racing as he felt the stirrings of power build within him, the thrill of confrontation charging the atmosphere. A sudden crash broke the provocation when Malik lunged at one of the rival members, fists flying. The warehouse erupted into chaos, bodies colliding, furniture smashing, and shouts echoed against cold metal walls. Bria waded through the fray effortlessly, every movement precise as she spun to dodge a fist that would have sent her sprawling. Her breath was heavy, but her spirit remained unyielding. She stood shoulder to shoulder with Akil, both of them moving as one, their chemistry melding into a powerful force. "Watch your back," she called when a rival swung at Akil, who dodged just in time, retaliating with a swift punch of his own that landed solidly against the man's jaw. As the fight intensified, echoing punches and crackling tension built a rhythm that mimicked their own heartbeats. It was a dance of survival, where every bruise brought them closer, but also exposed their vulnerabilities. "Over there!" Malik shouted, pointing as another rival attempted an escape through a side door. Bria sprinted after him, adrenaline propelling her as Akil blocked a second threat. But he couldn't shake the feeling that the stakes were much higher than anyone dared to admit. His thoughts stumbled dangerously close to the truth he remained determined to hide. He had orchestrated Bria's rise, but in the chaos of this stark confrontation, their secret bond thrashed beneath the guise of fierce loyalty. In a momentary pause, Bria returned, breathless and fiery. "Did you see that? He thought he could outrun me." "That's because he didn't see you coming," Akil replied, voice low, barely above a whisper, yet charged with an electric connection that neither could ignore. A moment stretched between them. Their eyes locked, as if the world around them faded away. Then, as a prickle of heat traversed their space, the door crashed open, and more assailants stormed in. With a surge of laughter to break the tension, Akil quipped, "Looks like they brought party favors." "Last one standing buys dinner," she challenged, her spirit lighting a blaze within him as they fought back to back. "Deal," he replied, the tension and unadulterated truth swirling between them, stronger than the chaos surrounding them. In that moment, they danced dangerously close to an edge of love, betrayal, and the exhilarating knowledge that each strike meant a heartbeat closer to revelation. Scene 39, Sacrifice. The wind howled through the abandoned warehouse, its unsettling wail echoing the storm brewing within Bria. She stood with Akil near an old, rusted shipping container, their breath visible in the chilled air, tension thick enough to cut. "Are you sure about this?" Akil's brow furrowed, concern clouding his usually playful eyes. They mirrored the dark sky outside, heavy with the weight of impending rain. The shadows danced as nearby flickering lights gave a false sense of safety. "There's no other way," Bria replied, her voice steadying against the chaos outside, though a tremor of uncertainty laced her words. "If we don't stop them now, all of this," she gestured toward the chaos laying in wait, their enemies hidden in the shadows, "it's only going to get worse." Akil stepped closer, his presence engulfing her with warmth. "You don't have to do this alone. We can figure it out together." He reached for her, fingers grazing her elbow, grounding her amidst the turmoil. I can't sit back and watch anymore, Akil. Not when you're in so deep. She pressed, the urgency burning in her chest, hunger and fear, twisting into one relentless urge. This is my fight as much as it is yours. Letting out a heavy sigh, Akil lowered his head, agitation radiating from him like heat from a flame. Bria, you don't know what you're dealing with. You're willing to risk everything. You barely know these people. The ground trembled, a distant echo of impending danger, a mere preface to the chaos to come. And I've never met anyone who cared about me like you do. Bria shot back, her heart racing. Don't think I'll abandon you now. Across the warehouse, the door burst open with a resounding crash, revealing two masked figures, a stark reminder of their vulnerabilities. Adrenaline surged, igniting an instinctual fear deep within her. Bria, stay behind me! Akil shouted, shielding her with his body. Yet in that moment, they were no longer just a duo. They were part of a larger symphony of movement. The world spun, driven by an unrelenting rhythm of need and desperation. Bullets grazed past their heads, ricocheting off steel containers, sending sparks dancing in the air. The noise exploded into a cacophony, drowning out the storm outside. Akil threw himself toward the nearest enemy, grappling with the masked figure, muscles taut and focused, a predator on the hunt. Bria's heart pounded wildly as she pivoted away from the chaos to grab a heavy wrench lying in the debris of their battlefield. It felt heavy and foreign in her hand, yet she gripped it tightly, heart racing with purpose. This was the moment she had prepared for. Courage wrestled with fear for dominance. Get down, Akil shouted, the command slicing through the din. Bria lowered herself instinctively, watching as he disarmed his attacker, his focus and resolve alight in the tide of danger. She could see the purpose in his movements, flawless and fluid, a dance of survival. But as more adversaries poured through the entrance, her fear morphed into action, coursing through her veins like electric shock. She sprung forward, eyes fiercely locked onto Akil's. I can't just stand here. You can and you will. Just... Akil did not finish his thought as another enemy lunged at him. In a flash, Bria swung the wrench, striking the man across the temple, sending him crumpling to the ground. Did you just hit someone? Akil raised an eyebrow, a mix of disbelief and admiration sparking behind his intensity. I thought I was the hero here. For once, let me play my part, Bria replied, her voice trembling not with fear, but with a rush of exhilarating defiance. The fight escalated, muscles aching and adrenaline pumping in sync with the storm outside. Bria realized she had crossed a threshold into love and commitment, prepared for whatever lay ahead. In the heart of the chaos, as they fought side by side, their gazes locked and hearts entwined, Bria found the truth she had been searching for buried beneath layers of fear. She was strong, capable of protecting what mattered most to him. Amidst the clamor, Akil turned, catching a moment of stillness. Bria, we don't have time for... He was interrupted as a shadow loomed above them, and for a breathless second, they lingered in the magnetism of unspoken promises. I'd risk it all for you, Akil, she declared, breathless yet resolute, as another storm of conflict erupted around them, their lives entwined in a dance of sacrifice and profound connection. Scene 40, Aftermath and Reflection. The sound of distant sirens echoed through the wreckage, a somber reminder of the chaos that had just unfolded. Bria stood amid the debris of the warehouse, her heart pounding against her ribs as she surveyed the surroundings. The tang of smoke hung heavy in the air, punctuated by the acrid scent of gunpowder. A thick silence enveloped the scene, punctuated only by the occasional crackle of embers still clinging to life. Bria blinked, focusing her gaze on Akil, who was crouched low, inspecting the shattered remnants of crates and scattered papers. His normally vibrant demeanor was obscured by the shadows that danced on his face. He looked up, his dark eyes filled with a mix of relief and something deeper, something like fear. Is everyone okay? Bria asked, her voice trembling as self-doubt swirled within her. She could feel the weight of her own vulnerabilities, the specter of betrayal creeping back into her consciousness. Would they ever fully recover from what had just happened? Akil rose, hands resting on his hips, brow furrowed. For now, but it's not over, Bria. We have to get out of here. She caught the edge of something raw in his voice. And keep running? I can't do this anymore, Akil. I need to know what's real. Real, he repeated, incredulous. We were just shot at. What part of that isn't real? Bria took a step closer, feeling her heartbeat quicken. The adrenaline still coursing through her veins ignited a spark, and she found herself consumed by a burst of energy. Don't deflect. You know what I mean. We've been dancing around the truth since the beginning. You orchestrated everything that launched my career, didn't you? Akil's expression hardened, muscles tightening under the strain of his reservations. It was a job, Bria. You were brilliant at it. I wanted you to succeed. But at what cost? She shot back, frustration bubbling to the surface. Or were you just playing me to get what you wanted? A sudden rush of wind moaned through the shattered windows, wrapping around them like an unwelcome embrace, lifting the weight of the moment. For a heartbeat, Akil seemed to stagger under her words. His eyes flickered with something vulnerable, something she had yet to see. Listen, he began, his voice dropping into an uncharacteristic softness. I didn't plan for this. He gestured expansively, indicating the chaos around them. And I sure as hell didn't plan for you. Bria's breath caught in her throat as she studied him. What does that mean? It means, Akil hesitated, grounding himself, that I didn't realize how much you would matter. He glanced away, his hands trembling slightly. Before all of this, I was comfortable being alone. But now, I'm afraid. The air thickened with tension, the current between them a complicated web of anger, fear, and underlying tenderness. Afraid? Of what? Bria's voice softened, curiosity overriding resentment. Of losing you, of revealing too much of myself and still not being enough. His eyes locked onto hers, a storm of emotions swirling beneath their surface. Bria took a step closer, the distance between them shrinking. You're more than enough for me. Are you sure? His tone was laced with incredulity, as if her words were a ring of faith he never thought would sound. Before she could reply, a distant rumble of thunder rolled across the sky, the sound both ominous and grounding. Akil's gaze flicked up like he was measuring the storm. We can't stay here, he warned, the thunderstorm reflecting the turmoil within. Promising me anything in this moment won't change what's out there. Bria's chest tightened. But what if it could change what's between us? He stepped forward, the relentless storm outside reflecting the tumultuous emotions they were grappling with. Every decision we make now has consequences. His hand found hers, warm and strong, grounding her in a way that sent chills cascading down her spine, igniting the flickering flame of connection brewing beneath layers of intensity. Just promise me. Promise you what? That you'll stay by my side while we clear this mess up. The world around her fell silent, a promise so weighty and interconnected, it cloaked them in a haze of complicity and desire as they faced the impending chaos and clarity that would follow. She inhaled deeply, steeling herself, and whispered, I promise. But even as they quietly solidified their bond, the approaching storm rumbled ominously, threatening to shatter everything they had just begun to rebuild. The air buzzed with electricity charged, alive, and fraught with unspoken words, lingering tensions, and the lingering scent of smoke and regret, setting the tone for what lay ahead. Scene 41, Building Bridges. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting a warm amber glow across the city, Brea stood at the large window of Akil's penthouse, her fingertips grazing the cool glass. The soft hum of distant traffic reminded her of the chaos they had narrowly escaped, but today felt different. Today held potential, a promise to rebuild something that had felt irrevocably lost. You know, Akil's voice cut through the silence, low and rich, as he stepped up beside her. The space between them crackled with unspoken words, the weight of his presence both grounding and thrilling. The world has a funny way of turning things upside down when you stop looking over your shoulder. Bria turned to him, her heart racing slightly as their eyes locked. There was a familiarity in those depths, a connection forged through shared scars and triumphs. She inhaled sharply, the scent of fresh wood and Akil's cologne entwining together in the dimming light. And somehow, we keep spinning, don't we? He chuckled softly, a sound that sent a ripple of warmth through her. Or we find ourselves in places we never expected. This view, for instance. He gestured toward the skyline, the first stars flickering to life like tiny diamonds against a velvet backdrop. But his gaze was fixed on her. In an instant, she felt the gravity pulling them closer, the air thick with possibilities. She stepped away from the window, breaking the spell of stillness that had enveloped them. "We have so much to figure out," she said, her voice steady despite the flutter in her chest. "We do." He took a step forward, closing the distance. It was only the two of them in that moment, the outside world fading into a hushed background. "But I meant what I said. The chaos might be behind us, but it's the rebuilding that's going to take the real work." Bria nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips. "And teamwork makes the dream work, right?" "Exactly," Akil grinned, masking his guarded nature with a playful charm. "So, how do you feel about decorating this place together? Because I think we could use some new art. Maybe something that speaks of resilience?" Their laughter mingled, lightening the burden they had carried. Yet underneath it was an intensity, a recognition that their lives had irrevocably changed, and so had their relationship. "I have a few ideas," Bria replied, stepping aside as she pretended to rummage through her purse before tossing out like a giant mural of a phoenix, or I don't know, a really majestic lion. "A lion?" Akil picked up a decorative throw pillow from the couch, throwing it playfully at her. "Now you're just trying to make me feel inadequate." She dodged, her laughter bursting forth, filling the space. Yet the moment faded, leaving a silence that draped over them with a different weight. Bria caught Akil's gaze, the playful luster replaced by something profound. She stepped closer, the atmosphere thickening with unsaid words. "Bria," he started, his voice dropping to a softer timbre. "There are things I need to come clean about, secrets that could change everything. But," he paused, the vulnerability hanging between them palpable, "I want to move forward, not backward." "I'm not afraid of the truth, Akil," she maintained, her heart pounding with nervous energy. "We can face whatever it is together." He reached for her, gently tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear, the touch electrifying. "I don't want to lose you," he murmured, and the intensity of his gaze sent warmth racing through her. "Then we won't lose each other," she replied boldly, stepping fully into his space, feeling like the walls were closing in yet surrounded by safety. "Whatever it takes." An echo of understanding passed between them as he leaned in, their foreheads nearly touching, a gesture charged with both caution and yearning. The world outside faded to a soft blur, the evening heat warming their entangled presence. "We'll build those bridges, Bria. For real," he whispered, brushing his lips against her temple, grounding her in a moment that held both tenderness and a hint of something more fervent. Her breath hitched, but she didn't pull away. Instead, she closed her eyes, surrendering to the warmth radiating from him, the beat of their lives, merging in that shared silence. And just like that, with one soft inhale, Bria knew they were already crafting the start of something great, with or without the chaos lurking behind them. As the twilight deepened outside, they stood entangled in each other's presence, the night alive with unvoiced promises. Scene 42, the ghosts of the past. The rain hammered against the sprawling windows of Akil's penthouse, each droplet racing to join the puddles forming on the balcony. Thunder rumbled overhead, sending shivers through Bria as she stood by the glass, peering into the darkened streets below. She could feel the tension in the air, thick and electric, mirroring her inner turmoil, an unsettling reminder of the ghosts she could no longer escape. Akil paced behind her, his voice a low growl, fueled by frustration. "Bria, we can't keep pretending everything's fine when it's not," Akil said, his hands thrust deep into his pockets. The dim light cast shadows that danced across his features, tinged with exasperation. She turned to him, her heart racing. "Do you really want to dig up all of this?" Her voice was steadier than she felt, but the fire smoldering within her ignited. "Can't you see that I'm trying?" "Trying to do what? Hide from your past?" He shot back, stepping towards her with purpose. The space between them crackled with unresolved emotions, a charged battlefield where love and fear intersected. "You think I don't know? You think I haven't noticed the way you flinch when someone says his name?" The mention of her past lover sent a wave of nausea spiraling through her. "Why would you bring him up? He has nothing to do with us." "Everything has to do with us." Akil's voice lowered, turning almost conspiratorial. "The moment you started keeping secrets, you built walls between us. It's like I'm out here on my own." "That's not fair, Akil," Bria interrupted, her words sharp as glass. She stepped closer, fighting against the storm brewing inside and out. You have your own shadows, too. You think I don't know about the people you've crossed? The deals you've made? A heartbeat of silence hung between them, pulsating like the rain against the glass. Akil's jaw clenched, and Bria could see the self-recrimination in his eyes. This isn't just about me. It's about protecting you. Oh, so now it's a matter of protection? Bria's tone softened, but the steel beneath it remained. What about my right to choose? To decide what I share with you? Choosing silence isn't a choice, Bria. It's a lie. The weight of their words loomed larger than the summer storm, each accusation bursting like thunderclaps. Just as the air thickened, the doorbell rang, cutting through the tension like a knife. Akil glanced at her, suspicion flaring in his eyes. Who is it? I don't know, Bria snapped. What do you think it is, an army of your past marching to take me away? I'd rather confront an army than deal with this. He was breathing heavily now, pacing back to the window, pressing his forehead against the cool glass as if seeking clarity through the storm. Bria's pulse quickened, her chest tightened with apprehension.